to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you guys for subscribing to my channel, liking my videos, and then sharing my videos. I appreciate a lot. So if you are new to my channel, you are highly welcome and very welcome. If you have not subscribed already, please subscribe. Today I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew a trendy peplum blouse. So I'm just going to name it. This is just like a DIY. So the blouse is really beautiful. So I came across it and I decided to share with you guys how to make this. You could rock it with a skirt, a trouser, whatsoever. So before I continue, I just want to say registration for November online class is still ongoing. So if you're interested in that class, just send me a message on WhatsApp, so I'll give you the details. So the yards of fabric that I'm going to be making use of, I'm going to be making use of 3 yards of fabric, because you could see the picture, it is a balloon. It has balloon sleeves. So I'm just going to keep this on the side because I've already cut out some amount of fabric which I'm going to be making use of for the top part, and I folded at 15 inches. So you divide your bust measurement into 4, and then you add about between 4 to 5 inches allowance to it. So mine, I came up, so after adding I got 15 inches, which is okay. And then the back, you're going to make it about 1 or 2 inches bigger than the front because of the zipper allowance. So I already have a line here. So this blouse, you can actually make it as a bustier, or you could make it as just a free fitted, that as in a free just a waist dart. So you could make use of any fabric. You could make use of a scuba, you could make use of crepe, you could make use of any nice fabric out. A sample material would do also. So I'm just going to measure out my measurement. So this line is going to serve as a start up line. So I'm going to measure my bust and line measurement. So I'm going to do half cuts that I'm going to just measure and insert the measurement. So my bust line, that's from my shoulder to my nipple, that's your bust line, is 10 inches. So this is the 10 inches. And then from my shoulder to my under bust, which is this point, I'm going to make use of 13 inches. This is 13 inches. And then from my shoulder to where I'm going to be cutting, so you measure that where you cut your half, and that's your half bodies, I'm going to be making use of 15 inches because I'm still going to add about 2-inch band to it. So I'm going to make use of 15 inches, which is okay. So I'm just going to once I'm cutting, I'm going to have like half an inch allowance here, which I'm going to use to stitch. So this is done. So the next thing I'm going to do now, like I said, you could make it a bustier, but this is not going to be a bustier. So I'm going to measure out my shoulder measurement, which is 14 inches. So when you divide 14 into 2, you have 7 inches. So this is 7 inches for beginners that don't know. So I'm going to add 1 inch allowance, which I'm going to use just for seam, that's the sewing. This is 1 inch. So from this 1 inch point, you're just going to put your tape like this, and then you measure out 8 inches for your armhole. You could make use of 9 inches for somebody that is a little bit busty. So I'm just going to rule it like this. And then from this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch or half inch, which I'm just going to slant it to the neckline, that's to this point. The essence is for your shoulder not to stand like you're putting on a shoulder pad. So I have my slant already. It is slanted. So the next thing we're going to measure out now is the armhole. So for the armhole, I'm just going to measure half of my armhole measurement, and then I'm going to come in by 1/4 of an inch for the front armhole. So I'm just going to, before I curve it out, it's always better to measure out your bust measurement, so that will help make you to know where to place your armhole. So my bust, I said, is 36. So when you divide 36 into 4, you have 9 inches. So I'm just going to place my 9 inches here. So I'm going to place my 9 inches here, and then I'm going to add allowance to it. So I'm adding about 4 inches allowance because I'm still going to take out 1 inch for my dart. So I'll add 1 inch allowance. So this is where my bust line is going to be. So it's just, I'm still going to come back to it. So with this now, I'll be able to draw out my armhole nicely. So I'll know that my armhole is just going to come like this now. It's going to come out from this point, coming to this point, and then is going to come in like this. So I have my armhole laid out nicely. So like I said, I'm going to measure out the bust now. So I have the bust measurement that I measured, and then the under bust measurement, I'm going to make use of 8 inches. When you divide 32 into 4, you have 8 inches. So I'm still going to add the same number of allowance because I'll take out 1 inch for the dart. So I'm just going to slant it like this to this point, and then my waistline, that's where you're going to cut. I'm going to be making use of 34 inches. So when you divide 34 into 4, I'm going to have my measurement. I'm just going to place it like this, mark it, and then I'll still maintain the number of allowance that I was making use of. So I'm just going to rule it like this. So I have my bodice well laid out. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to insert my dart. So in inserting my dart, I'm just going to use I'm going to make use of half of my bust span measurement. That's from one nipple to another. Mine is actually 8 inches, so I'm going to use 4 inches. This is 4 inches. I'm just going to rule it from up down like this. So I'll connect it like this, that I'm going to use. So from this point now, I'm just going to come from this point. I'll measure half an inch to this side and then half an inch. You could decide to make use of 1 inch. It will still be okay. So I'm going to connect it to this point now like this. So that is for my dart. So the next thing we're going to do now is the Sweetheart neckline. So I have a video of various types of necklines. I'm going to drop the link down for you. So, but I'm still going to show you how to cut the Sweetheart neckline. It's really simple and easy. So we're going to make use of 3.5 inches. This is just like a standard measurement for necklines. For anybody it will work. Even for somebody that is big, it will work, and small, it will work. But bigger people, you could decide to increase. So I have my 3.5 inches. So for the depth, you could decide to measure if you don't want to run into problems. Measure how deep you actually want your neckline to be. So I'm just going to make use of 7 inches for this and case. So this is like my 7 inches. So I'm going to reduce it to 6.5. 7 inches is too much for this. So I'm just going to create out a square. And then from this point, I'm going to come up by about 1.5 inches. That's on the side like this. I'll come up by 1.5 inches or 2 inches. Depends on how deep you want it to be. And then from this point, I'm just going to create a curve like this. So you see, like I said, it's really simple and easy. Just back flip a curve like this. That is that. And then come like this. So that is our Sweetheart neckline. And then for the back neckline, we're going to make you just going to follow the same point like this. And then depends on how deep you want the back neckline to be. We're just going to make use of about 2 inches because it is actually high. And then we're going to create, you could use your pattern curve, or you could just freehand it to create a perfect round curve like this. So this is our back neckline, and then this is the front. So we're going to cut out now. So I'll cut out this point first. So I'll cut out the back armhole. I'm not going to cut on this line. When I'm cutting the front, that's when I'll cut that. So I'll just keep this on this. I put the notches for the dart. And then I'll keep the back piece and then cut out the front neckline. So you see our Sweetheart necklines, beautiful. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to take it onto my machine and start stitching. So I'm going to stitch the back and the front together on the side. Before then, I'm going to cut out a band which I'm going to be attaching before I cut out the peplum. So, and the band that I'm going to use, I'm just going to use my waist and measurement to cut out a straight band. So there are various ways of cutting band, but this is just like the easiest that I've been using, and it has been working. So I'm going to use about 2.5 inches on fold. So you could decide to do it on bias and form. It will still work out. So I'm just going to trim it out, and then I'll go and connect them together. So I'll stitch them together and then come back and cut out the peplum and then the balloon sleeves for you to see. Okay, so you see I've finished and stitching the top part of my body. So I've inserted the band to it, so the neckline is turned out. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut the peplum. So for the peplum, because I'm going to be pleating it, so I'm just going to I'm supposed to cut out 16, that's 32 inches peplum, 33 inches, then plus my 2 inches allowance, that's 35 inches. So for this, you could decide to do it in two ways. You could decide to double your measurement, as if you want it very full, or you could decide to reduce it if you don't want it that full. But mine, I'm going to double it. So I'm going to cut out, so the radius that I'm going to cut out now, this is 33 inches. So the radius I'm going to cut out, and I'm going to cut out about 66 inches. So that's going to be my radius. So I'm going to measure out the length of my blouse. That's the top part of my body. So what I have here is 15 and a half, and the full length that I want, I actually want 25 inches. So and then 1 inch for stitching allowance. So what I'm going to have now, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to cut out a peplum. The length is going to be 11. So I folded my fabric into two. So this is the amount of fabric that I'm using for this now. So I'm making use of, this is 22 times 4. So that's the amount of fabric I'm using. So I folded, so I folded at the full and length that I have here. So the next thing I'm going to do, the easiest way for you to do this, I'm going to measure out the length of my peplum from the down part. And I said I'm making use of 11 inches. So I'm just going to come like this, and then I'll measure out my 11 inches. So this is my 11 inches already. So I'll come to this point also, and then measure out 11 inches. So what I'm going to measure what I have from here. So I have 10.5 inches. So I'm just going to use that as my radius, and then before then I'm going to measure what I have to see if it will be up to my 16. So I have more than enough. So 15, and when you divide, and when you times into 4, you have 60 inches, and then plus my extra 2 inches allowance. So that's 66. You divide it into 4. So I'm just going to measure now. So I'm just trying to get it out nicely. So this is because I'm going to pleat. So now I'm going to measure out my 11 inches. That's for the length. So you see what we have. So I'm going to cut out now. So for your peplum, like I said, so you divide what you have. That's what you do. Your radius, divide it into 4, and then you insert the measurement up here. So that's just like the easiest way if you don't want to make use of the regular 6.28 formula to calculate your peplum. So I have it out now. So I'm just going to open on one side, and then the easiest way for you to do this, to get it out accurately, I'm going to notch the 4 corners. So the reason of notching the 4 corners is when I'm pleating, I'm going to know that I'm going to when I pleat like this, I'll know that from this point, this is the side of my blouse. I'm going to pleat this point. That's from this point to this point. It's going to fit into this point. So with that, you see it's divided into 4. When I'm pleating now, this is going to go into this point, and then this will go into this point. So with this, I'll be able to get an accurate pleat on my the pleat is going to be even. So it's always good to notch when you're pleating. You notch the 4 corners. So I'm just going to open this up now, and then I'll keep this on the side, and then I'm going to cut out the sleeve. So this is a regular balloon sleeve. So the easiest way for you to do this, I'm just going to measure my armhole So I'm making use of 9 inches. So the length, you are going to determine and the length of what your that's the length, that's from this point to, for this point I'm going to make use of 9, that's from here to my bicep point. I'll make use of 9 inches, that's the length, and then my round armhole also I'll make use of 9 inches. So I'm just going to fold like this and do a quick and one for you. I'm going to use this point as my start up and point. So I'm just going to, so I have about 10.5 inches here on fold, so which is okay. So I'm just going to come to from this edge, I'm going to measure 4 inches. I'm going to use that as my sleeve cap. So I'm just going to come like this. So this is just like the freehand method of measuring out a sleeve. So, and then you measure like this to make sure you have your 9 inches. So I have more than enough. I have about 10 inches. So it's okay. So the next thing is your bicep and measurement. So from this point, like I said I'm making use of 9 inches. That's for the first, that's from here to where I'm going to cut. This is my 9 inches. So I'm going to measure the width that I'm going to be making use of. This is 7, which is 14 inches. So I'm just going to mark it like this, 14 inches. So I'll cut it out. So the next thing I'm going to cut now, I'm going to cut the down part of our puff. So for the down part of our balloon or puff, I'm going to double it because I'm going to be pleating it. So I want it to be full. So this is all what you will do. You fold your fabric like this. You double it into 2. I'm going to double it because I'm going to pleat on the top and then put a band on the down. That's elastic rather. So I'm just going to fold it like this. So I actually have a sleeve or a balloon sleeve like that on my channel, so I'll drop the link down. So I'm not going to be showing how to go, I'm not going to go over that again. So I'll drop the link so you could watch it and then you see how to sew that sleeve easily, a more detailed explanation. So I'm just going to fold like this and then I'll use the length. So it depends on how wide you want it to be. That is what I'm going to use to cut this. So I'm going to make use of 10 inches from this point, and then the width that I will make use of here is 15 inches because I'm going to pleat it. So it's folded already. So I'm just going to cut it like this and then I'm going to slant this part. So it's really simple. This is how I do mine and it has been working. So I'm just going to slant it like this. So you see what I did? I slanted it like this and then I'm going to cut out this point. So I'm going, by the time I fold, I pleat this part and then rubber this, and I use elastic. So you see that it's already looking like the shape of that sleeve already. So you could see it's already looking like the shape of the sleeve. So this point, and you just pleat it, and then this side you use elastic on it. So you see the shape is looking like the sleeve. So I'm just going to go back to my sewing machine and then couple everything together. I'll couple the sleeve and then fix the peplum and then come back and show you the final look of this peplum. Okay guys, so you could see this is the final look of our peplum DIY blouse with puffy and balloon sleeve. So you could see the Sweetheart neckline, it came out pretty well, and then you could see the flares. So if you are going to be making use of a scuba, you have more fullness, which you don't actually need to line because it's going to be full. Scubas they are always fuller. And you could also make this with an Ankara, but I advise if you're going to be making it with an Ankara, you should line it so it will give it more fullness at this down part. So the sleeve, so you could see it's doubled, so that to give it that full and firmness. So if you find this video helpful, please, I would appreciate if you would give it a thumbs up and then share with your friends on your different sewing groups, so which I will respond to as fast as I can. So thank you so much. I'll see you in my next video. So thank you so much and God bless you.